Things just got worse and worse and worse as the night went on. Again, valiant effort down the stretch for the Bucks. Just too little, too late. Let's go down and let's see what Coach Fletch and the rest of the crew has to say. As always, go Bulls. So let's head into the locker room right now and see what the guys have to say about that one. Wow. Where do the Buccaneers go from here? What an incredible atmosphere. What a good win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They snapped a 7-game winning streak. How we feeling, Bucs Nation? It's time to party, baby.
What is going on, everybody? Hope everybody is well. Welcome to the Recher podcast. Here on the program, it's June 25th, 2025. And as always, we are brought to you by our friends, Honest Hammer Custom Builders, LLC. You see the number right there, 813-244-0956. Go give Hammer a call right now for any of your residential, commercial needs, and he'll take care of you. So give him a shout. Tell him you heard it right here on the Recher podcast, and you get a discount. Go to thehonesthammer.com. Go check out all the information, or just scan the QR code right there on the layout on the screen. It was a crazy day yesterday. And listen, after I left here, I went to practice. I had practice at the field, and I took some medicine for my migraine that I had. And man, I almost passed out on the field yesterday. It was freaking crazy. It was so hot out there. So I'm okay now. I feel much better today. But my goodness, yesterday was tough when I left here. It was so hot and I almost passed out on the field. I had to actually go upstairs and take a breather and just relax a little bit. But man, don't mess around when it comes to the heat here in the Tampa Bay area, because it was wild, man. And I know a lot of you guys that work outside. I couldn't catch my breath. It was bad. And it was partly due to the medication that I was taking. So I just obviously got to take care of yourself. But yes, I know now. Hydrate. And I was hydrating, but my migraines are a pain in the ass, man. They really are. It's hereditary. It's something that it gets me, and I just got to be smarter. But yeah, just a little bit of a warning out there. It's hot out there in the Tampa Bay area. Drink a lot of water, get those electrolytes, eat. I got better as the day went on, which is good. I'm feeling much better today. I can't wait for the program that we have in front of us. Man, you want to talk about some big-time guests. At 12:30 today, we've got Xavier Scruggs joining us on the show. MLB Network, ESPN, guy's a beast. He's everywhere. And you want to talk about a guy who has really taken his game to the next level since being out of the league. Like Xavier Scruggs, to me, I think he's one of the most talented people in all sports media. And the great thing about Xavier Scruggs is that he doesn't have to be one of those hot take artists where he has to say some crazy shit to get attention. Like, my guy is grinding and doing his thing. I love what Xavier Scruggs. And then at 1 o'clock, our guy Ed Encina is going to join us from the Tampa Bay Times to give us his 2 cents on the Lightning offseason and, of course, WWE Night of Champions that looks like it's going full bore, going ahead without any stoppage, even though of what happened in the world with the issues with the U.S. and Iran, and we'll see how it goes there. I just booked all the rest of the show for tomorrow, too. Tomorrow, we've got at 12:30, Chris Adams-Wall is going to join us to talk about the Red Hot Race. 1 o'clock, Adam Sylvan from Pewter Report is going to join us. And then at 1:30, Lyndon Blake is going to join us from Outkick. Lyndon, who was from Alabama, then was here for a while, did a lot of work, I think, in the Nashville area, and then now she's working for Outkick, but she was at TEU last night with Taylor Swift and all the tight ends at TEU in Nashville. So she's going to join us to talk all about that tomorrow here on the program at 1:30. So great shows. We also have Jess Dumick joining us on Friday as well, one of the voices of Tampa Bay sports here in the Bay Area. She's going to join us, and of course, more irons in the fire for Friday. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on the channel, man. We got over 15 subscribers. Let's get it up to 2,000. That's our goal, 2,000 subscribers. I got to get it up to 5,000 by the end of the year, or my nephew is not going to be happy. So Lawson set the high bar. I got to get 5,000. It's going to be tough, but can we get 5,000 by December? Hopefully we'll get a big time bump during football season. The Beckles and Recher podcast, we've been off for about a month. We're back at it today, so make sure you're subscribed to my channel right here at 3 o'clock. We'll be live from the Dignitary Cafe, 4817 Southwest Shore Boulevard, talking about a litany of things going on in the sports world. Of course, always a lot of fun with Beck, the Beckles and Recher podcast, again at 3 o'clock right here on the YouTube channel. David Terry always saying the nice things. Thank you so much. JR is the #1 source of Tampa Bay sports. Thank you, my friend. I really do appreciate that. Thank you to Jeff Taylor, and thank you to Devin Garnett, two guys that donated via the Super Chat. If you'd like to donate via the Super Chat, I can't thank you guys enough. That's the only way we're going to keep this thing going. Sponsors and partnerships and the Super Chats, $1, $2, $5, $10, $20, whatever you can do to spare. These are the kind of things that keep this thing rolling. I'm going to be doing the work on my side. I just need some help out there as well from our people here in the Tampa Bay area. Dolan, you're right, buddy. We're going to get to those Rays in a bit. Shout out to you. And Benny, thank you for always being here, buddy. You are the man. Let's see. Nathan, what's up, buddy? Yeah, at the Sly is a beast, dude. It's the beast. He's all over it, man. I love that. And what's up, Bart? My guy, always been one of the mainstays, whatever I do. So thank you very much. And Chris Adamswall is a good dude asking about Vince in Myrtle Beach. He calls the Rays post. I know when I was doing the Rays post game shows, I remember talking to Vince in Myrtle Beach, and he can go on forever and ever and ever and and ever and ever and ever. It's pretty wild. It's pretty cool. Pat McAfee. No one. Pat McAfee's taking a step away from WWE. Man, it's been a little bit of a backlash for Pat McAfee. He was so popular, and I think a lot of people might. I don't want to say they're getting tired of his act, but I wonder like how people feel about Pat McAfee, the sports world, the WWE world, because he's a guy's pretty freaking popular, and ESPN has invested a lot into him, and I think he brought a lot of good energy to WWE. But I don't know, he's rubbing some people the wrong way. He really is. All right, here's the link if you want to get in on the conversation. I always want to hear from you guys. What do you think of Pat McAfee? I'd love to hear what you have to say. Here's the link if you want to join in on the conversation at any time. There's the link. Click on it right there in the chat. You can use your phone. You can use your laptop. Join in on the conversation like we've seen the past couple of weeks. Our guy Robert Cochran, so happy of the Oklahoma City Thunder winning the NBA championship. If you want to get in line to talk at all today, again, there is the link right there, and then we will go from there. Okay, so how about our Tampa Bay Rays winning once again? They are a team right now that they're 9 games over 500. They are now 1 game behind the New York Yankees for first place in the AL East. Who would have thought that something like that could even be uttered after what we saw from this team early on in the season, where they were just the examples of futility and inconsistency in Major League Baseball. And right now, I mean, you look at what happened last night, and the reason why I want to preface kind of the conversation today with, we on this side, whether it's the media side, whether it's the fan side, we always look at teams, and we're always so quick to get rid of guys. We're always so quick to say, get rid of him. But it's so much deeper than that. And the teams are always going to be able to give leash after leash after leash to all these different guys, and just give them longer leashes, and they're just going to let them try to work through it. And we even had the conversation yesterday with Evan Klosky from 10 Tampa Bay. Man, it's always great to talk to Ev. He's on it. He is on it. And he was even saying that I think Taj Bradley needs a reset. He's 24 years old, and I didn't necessarily disagree with him at all. Not at all. Because I think he was a guy that was stumbling, and he was really trying to find himself. But when you're a starting pitcher and you have a couple of days to work through it, sometimes you just need a specific bullpen with your pitching coach, and things can turn around. And that's what we saw last night. Because when we look at this team, they are the prototypical, hey, we are going to operate in our own way. We are not going to care what the outside noise is. And we are going to believe in our guys. We are going to believe in Taj Bradley. We are not going to send him down. I know Joel Boyle's killing it in AAA, but we're going to stay with him. Adding a sinker, changing some of the mechanics that he really was struggling with, and then look at what happened last night in Kansas City. 6 2/3, only 2 hits given up, no runs, 4 Ks, and most important to me, 1 walk. You have to pitch to contact. You have to go at these hitters. You can't fall behind. Once you get behind, you're so predictable as a pitcher. But again, that is the Rays not panicking. That is the Rays staying with what has gotten them to this point and not freaking out and just realizing, okay, hey, we just got to take it easy. We got to trust in what has gotten us to this point and go from there. And he's not the only guy that you can say that about. Look at Yandy Diaz, and I'll be the first one to admit I was the guy early on in the season going, why isn't anybody talking about how poorly Yandy is doing? Now, his average is up to 289 after 3 hits last night. He is back to being one of the best hitters in baseball. They've got him back up to that customary leadoff spot. Josh Lowe had the night off because he's been struggling a little bit. But when Yandy's setting the table and his average is 289, that's Yandy. You look at a guy like Curtis Mead. I know 1 for 5 last night, batting 248. And then you look at Jonathan Aranda at 332 after 3 hits last night. These are 2 guys that we were wondering the last year or two, are they going to be on that list of these guys that we've seen the last couple of years where they do really well in AAA, and then when you get into the big club, it just doesn't translate. They're almost those quad A, those 4A players where they're only good in AAA. And I commend the Tampa Bay Rays for doing this. And sometimes it may be a little bit too stubborn. Sometimes it may be loyal to a fault. But when I watch them and I watch what happened last night, when you see who contributes to the victory, a lot of that has to do with the trust that they have in their players. Having the trust that Yandy's going to snap out of it. Have the trust that Aranda and Mead are finally going to be 2 guys that are going to warrant being a part of this everyday lineup for the Tampa Bay Rays. So good on them. Good on them for having that patience, and they just got to keep it rolling and keeping going, because now it's June 25th and they're 1 game out of first place in the American League East, which is wild because the Yankees are super inconsistent. They really are. You have some good players. Judge has come back down to earth a little bit. Goldschmidt has been good all year long. You know, they've dealt with some injuries. Stanton's back now. They have Jazz Chisholm. He's getting thrown out. I don't know what he's got to be a little bit more consistent for them. And, you know, we'll see. I still don't know if they know their identity yet. The Rays looks like they're forming theirs. And they are looking sharp, and they look like a team that nobody wants to play right now. When you can do it at home, when you figure out the home cooking, and then you can go on the road and win the series that you have so far. You know, they've already won series in San Diego. They've already won series there in Boston. They've won series in New York. Like, you look at that and you go, did they win that series? No, they think they lost, but still played hard against that Boston Red Sox, and they definitely swept that series against the Mets. So, man, whatever's working right now, it just stay with it, because before you know it, Hassan Kim will be here, and that could make this team even better. What does that mean for guys like Taylor Walls and Jose Caballero and Christopher Morel? We'll have to, and Curtis Mead. We'll see, but it's a good problem to have when you have that many players that are contributing at a high level. David Terry, what do you think about Shane Baz to the bullpen? Seems no one can touch him for 2 innings, but bring up Boyle to start. Who are you going to send down, though? That's the problem. You can talk about bringing guys up, but then you have to send guys down. You have to be wary of the roster and who's on the 40-man. I just think Shane is going to be another one of those guys. That's another example, and I'm glad you brought that up. That's another example of what the Rays are going to do with Shane Baz, what they did with Taj Bradley. They're not going to freak out. They're going to stay with him. And there was a really, really good article in the Tampa Bay Times from Mark Topkin talking about how the pitchers have changed and how guys have added some sinkers, and how Shane Baz, who loved his slider, and it's a big reason that he was able to climb the ranks and eventually be a big league pitcher, but it was getting smacked around. And we saw it when I went to the game a couple of weeks ago. The slider was the pitch that he gave up the home run to Vlad Guerrero in that game against the Blue Jays. They ended up winning that game, but the slider just wasn't working. Doesn't mean you never go back to it, but Kyle Snyder's telling him, why don't you switch to a cutter? It's tough to be able to switch your repertoire in the middle of the season. The only way you do that is if the players have 100% buy-in and you have a phenomenal pitching coach, because he's not worried that it's just going to knock a guy off track so hard that he's going to be done for the season. Kyle Snyder has the belief that, hey, if just a tweak here, a tweak there, add this pitch. It's really one of the unsung heroes when you talk about this Tampa Bay Rays team. Maybe not locally, because we know what he can do and how much he's helped over the years. But I think nationally, looking at what Kyle Snyder can do and we heard Brady North talk about it a couple weeks ago when we were talking about the hitting. They're the rumble strips. Just get them back on track. Get them back on the highway. And if they can do that, I mean, watch out, because there are so many good arms and there's so much talent here. And man, if we could ever get a Shane McClanahan, imagine if we can get down the stretch here. Rosters, you get another guy, you get to the postseason, and you can add Joe Boyle and Shane McClanahan to this pitching staff. Woo! Baby, that would be awesome. Lady Evil, Jay, do you think MLB let the Rays play at Sunburner Field in a pinch? Yeah, no doubt. Where else are they going to play? They have to. They have to. Michael LaRue, Stu is feeding media outlets dirt on new Rays buyer Patrick Zalewski and his company hoping to kill the sale of his team. Story will be in the Times soon. Yeah, no, I've heard that on social media as well. I don't know if it's so much he's feeding media outlets dirt on Rays buyer Patrick Zalewski, or if there's people that are trying to. Yeah, this is what happens. And I'm not denying this. I'm not saying, because, like, again, I've never been one of those people that is like, whatever Stu says is true. I think during my time at WDAE, I was the one guy that spoke the loudest of, like, I don't really buy what Stu is selling. And I've said for years that Tampa Bay Rays fans deserve better than the baseball team that they have, as far as what the ownership does to put the best product on the field. Never said that about the front office guys. Never said that about the coaches or the players. The ownership and the way that he goes about his business, I've always said, I don't agree with it. Don't agree with that. Said it to Stu's face. In a situation like this, there's nothing that you could tell me that would surprise me when it comes to Stu Sternberg. Nothing. Now, I don't know if you're feeding. Why would you feed media outlets dirt if you're trying to sell the team? Maybe somebody else is doing it. I'm not denying that. But there will be, and I saw that thing on social media of one of the writers for the Times trying to ask people about the Dream Finders and the organization that Patrick Zalewski is a part of. They're doing their due diligence, whether it's right or wrong. That's what they're doing. There's at least 3 groups that are looking to buy this team, and it is for the best. It is for the best, because I am there now that I'm back in the scene of coaching. Like, I'm around all of these different baseball people from the pro level and I'm talking about players, coaches, scouts, the college level with these guys that are recruiters and these assistant coaches, then high school ball, and then just being here in the Tampa Bay area. Like, this is a baseball city. And for far too long, we're looked at like the little sisters of the poor, just solely because of how the owner operates and does his business. And it's sad, because it shouldn't be like that. And I was having this conversation. We had a long 8-hour drive back from South Carolina. We were talking about I'm going to do this here soon. I'm going to come up with a top 10 list of the best high school baseball players at each school, the big schools, right? Probably the top 10 schools, the Tampa Catholics, the Jesuits, the Hillsboroughs, the Jeffersons, guys that have, had former big leaguers that went to school there, playing high school. Obviously, we know with Tuck and Alonzo and all those guys. But I wanted to put together a top 10 list for each school. I think that'd be fun to talk about. And then you start going through the names, and you're like, you have this guy, and you have this guy, and you have this guy, and this guy, and this guy. And you start going down the list, and you're going 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Like, this is a baseball town. This is a baseball town, and we need people at the top that believe that and tie everything in. Like, there's no reason why that, and I know Joe Urso threw the first pitch out the other day for UT, but, like, he should be a big part of the race. Like, they should have UT Day. Joe should have, like, a special place in the press box, or, you know what I mean? Like, in the stand. Same thing for Pop Cuesta. Same thing for Coach Macaluso. Same thing for all the former big leaguers, right? Tino Martinez and Fred McGriff and guys. Like, all these guys, they should feel welcome to go to these Rays games. It should be a place where people get up and meet up and enjoy the game and watch baseball. Listen, we need a place where it's in West Tampa, especially, right? West Tampa, these guys that have been around baseball for damn near 100 years, they are at these coffee shops, and these guys are drinking their café con leche, and they are talking about baseball. They're talking about history. They meet up every single morning. They meet up in afternoons. They go to lunch at Acoides and all these different places here in the Tampa Bay area. Baseball is in their blood. We need the next Rays stadium. Excuse me. We need the next Rays stadium to be a place where baseball people can meet up. There needs to be a place where baseball people can go and enjoy the game and support this team and not feel like, well, why am I doing this? And I don't feel that I'm part of this. You have to be part of this. Tampa's a baseball town. Now, this whole thing, again, with the owners and looking at all this stuff, I don't dispute that there's going to be some kind of weirdness and there's going to be people that are going to dig up dirt. Listen, if there's multiple people trying to get this done, this kind of stuff is going to happen, right? If you want to buy a team, because we know that baseball teams and professional sports teams don't depreciate. It only goes up. Look at how much stew is made on this team. So you're going to have these groups. Yeah, there's going to be sniping. Yes, there's going to be back and forth. Yes, there's going to be dirt that is going to be dug up. The longer this goes, the more opportunities there are to dig up some bad stuff on the different groups. Nathan Elliott, baseball will always be third in Tampa. The Buccaneers are king. Lightning are the queens. The Rays are the here. They're not even as popular as the Yankees. Let's be real. Listen, I'm not disputing that right now, Nathan. But it doesn't have to be like that. It can be different. I'm telling you it can be different. There's no way that you have hundreds and thousands of kids on a baseball field and the MLB product isn't, and I'll get NFL's king. I'll give you that. But there's no reason why that the Rays shouldn't be number 2. There's no reason why. Because, and people have said this for years, if the Rays were operating and the Rays had an owner whose mindset was like Jeffrey Vinnick's, we wouldn't be having this conversation because they'd clearly be number 2. But what Jeff Vinnick's focus was when he joined the Tampa Bay Lightning was, I'm going to rip out all the seats at Amalie Arena. Every seat has a cushion. And I'm going to make sure that I invest my money, my time, and my energy into this community. Notice what I said. Not the team, the community. People question it all the time. Well, what do the Rays do in the community? They do things. But I remember talking to some of their PR and marketing people, and they said, well, we don't want to really brag about it. Dude, your PR has taken hits year after year after year. Your image is not great in the Tampa Bay area. You need to shout that shit from the mountaintops. You have to. You have to do that because people think you don't care. People think you don't care about Tampa Bay. You got to change. And this next ownership group, regardless of who it is, needs to come in and they need to make sure that the community knows that they give a shit about the people here in this community. You have to make an adjustment. Baseball should not be 3 in this town. It should be 2. And you guys know, hockey's my favorite sport. I love the Lightning. I cover them as close as any team that I cover. I love being around them. I love how much hockey is really woven into the fabric of our society. I love that. I love it. But at the end of the day, I know how many baseball people live in this town. And I'm not just talking about Tampa. We're talking about St. Pete. We're talking about Clearwater. Hell, man, you want to go out east. You want to go farther out east. You want to go to the Lakelands area. You want to bring in the Orlando. Bro, go south. Go a little north. Listen, we're not talking about this with the Marlins. We're talking about this with the Tampa Bay Rays. We're talking about how many people that have played D1 ball here. How many people that didn't even make it to the big leagues but played minor league ball. There are thousands of people in this vicinity. But for some reason, there's a disconnect between that group and the Tampa Bay Rays. If that relationship is fixed, I think that this team could, think about it. You don't have to be the Yankees and the Dodgers. You don't have to spend $200-300. You don't have to do that. But spend $130, spend $140, spend $150. You want to talk about a team that has staying power? You want to talk about a fan base that will grow and be like, you know what? I didn't believe, but now I do. That'll happen because you see it in hockey. Because there are a lot of transplants down here, myself included. There are people that have moved down here from the original 6 cities that moved here from Montreal, from Toronto, from Boston, from New York, from Chicago. And look at it right now. A lot of those people giving away their allegiances because they want to support the Tampa Bay Lightning. Maybe they didn't forget about their home lineage, but they support the team that they're in now. And they're not ashamed of it because of how the Lightning operate and how they do business. It's not just because they won on the ice. That's a huge part of it. but it's how they treat the people in our community. Our guy Paul Russo tuning in. Our guy, as always, baseball should be number one. Don't forget the Bucs are going downhill until Tom Brady made it relevant. What a great point from Paulie Walnuts. Make sure you check out our guys, Hit Factory Tampa. We got a big tryout tonight, so it'll be fun with the USA Scout and the entire crew over there. We'll be at Tampa Catholic. So if you got some baseball players and you're looking for a travel ball team, I'm back with Hit Factory and my guys, Pat and Paul and Vince Gagno. So if you want to be a part of Hit Factory, definitely we come on board, baby. It's only getting bigger. I was just having a conversation before telling one of the local high school coaches, if you want to be taught the right way, King Kong is home. Let's do it, buddy. Let's do this. But Paul's completely right. Baseball should be number one. You would think about it with the amount of people and with what happened with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, will it ever change back? Maybe. Maybe it will. Because let's not forget, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were the losingest franchise out of all the four major sports. All of them before Tom Brady came here. We looked it up the other day with Ian. Check this out. Not many people are going to talk about this because they're scared. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers would have to go 11-6 for the next 40 years for them to be 500. For the Bucs to get their overall record in the history of their franchise at 500 or above, they'd have to go 11-6 for the next 40 years. That's not happening. That's not happening. So could we eventually see one thing kind of going down and this team back to futility and games being blacked out? We could. But these things they're cyclical. They're ebbs and flows. But I would just love to see the Rays with an owner that gets it. Not just gets the business side, not just gets the Major League Baseball side, that gets the Tampa Bay area. Give me a guy that knows what it takes to be successful here, to be able to use the rich history that we have in our area, to be able to put a product on the field, to be able to inject energy and life into a fan base so that if you have a young son, you're teaching him to be a Rays fan, even if you're from Atlanta and you were a Braves fan, or you're a guy from New York and you grew up a Mets fan or a Yankees fan, you have a kid, you're like, hey, Rays fan. I said this a couple years ago when it was about the Tampa Bay Lightning. The one thing about hockey, even if you don't know about it as much as some of the other sports, the Tampa Bay Lightning, out of anybody, and I don't disagree with the NFL and baseball. You heard what I had to say about all that. But the Tampa Bay Lightning are that one team here in the Tampa Bay area that you're proud to be a fan of. That goes a long way. It really does. You may not think so. But when you really, really sit down and you wonder, if I have disposable income, let's say I have $200 this month, and you have an opportunity to go to a Rays game, a Lightning game, or a Bucks game, what are you doing? Probably going to a Lightning game. Because you know what the atmosphere is going to be like. You know you're going to get the best bang for your buck. You know you're not going to be sitting outside in the heat, right? Like, there's a lot that goes into it. And for the most part, there's a good chance they're going to win. Because you have all-time greats on the ice. You have Andrei Vasilevsky and Victor Hedman and Nikita Kucherov, like three guys that are surefire Hall of Famers. And you want to be able to see what they do before they end up retiring one day. But that's what you need for these other teams. And the Bucs were certainly getting there. Tom Brady was able to heal the image. Baker Mayfield, I think, is one of those guys where you're proud to be a Buccaneers fan. You're proud that he's your quarterback because it's that never say die attitude. It's that, hey, I don't care how big you are. I'm gonna drop my shoulder, even though some people kind of, they please, they hold their breath. They don't want that to happen. But you're proud that Baker Mayfield is your quarterback, right? You're proud to have a guy like Mike Evans, Levante David. A lot of that goes into it. Are you proud of the Tampa Bay Rays? You could be a Rays fan, but are you proud to be a Rays fan? Not everybody could say yes. And if you can't wholeheartedly say yes right off the rip when that shit happens or when that question comes to you, you answered that question for me. People missing Dave Terry already missing already. Tampa Bay sports, no divas. Yeah, I mean, Ren, that's a good point. And think about it like this. What's the one position that has divas? more than any probably in all of sports. Wide receiver. And you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and that position group for them, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan, Emeka Egbuka. None of those guys are divas. None. They're all down to earth, blue collar guys. And again, proud to be a fan of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because of guys like that. No doubt about it. Xavier Scruggs is going to join us here in a minute. My money goes to the Bucs first. I do not care about the heat, and I don't care about the rain. I've been a crew member longer than Brady been in the building. You are one of those guys, Nathan. No doubt about it, buddy. Good for you. I love that. I love being a crew member. I love the people that are with the teams through the ups and the downs. Listen, that's why people want to get in and say, all right, it's just New York, but that's what being a Knicks fan has been all about. Bro, it's been hard. The Knicks were one of those teams too. Worst teams in all of sports, mismanaged. Isaiah Thomas, Phil Jackson, all this craziness. And you're just year after year after year, just awful. And then now they're finally good. Now they're finally in the Eastern Conference Finals. And right. And obviously they couldn't get the job done the last couple of years, but man, you live and die with those games. Because when you go through some of the turmoil and you go through how bad your team is, man, when they get that, start going back up the mountain, you're like, oh, it means that much more. It's different. I mean, what do Yankee fans ever have to live and die with in the regular season? Because it's just wake me up when September ends. It's like a Green Day song. It's different. But when you're a team that's been bad for as long as they were, and you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? They were so bad for so long. That 2002 Super Bowl winning team meant so much to so many people. They still talk about it. They still compare that team to every single team after. The Super Bowl winning one in 2020, the one now. Like, those guys could walk on water here. Brooks, Sapp, Lynch, Barber, the whole crew. Tony Dungy, John Gruden, right? That conversation of who had more to do with the win, with building that team. Let's see. Ready for you. All right. And we did see this breaking news earlier today. Thank you, Ryan B. Evander Kane traded to the Vancouver Canucks for a 2025 fourth-round pick. They're carrying all of his salary, too. We're going to see a lot more moves here in the next couple of days here in the National Hockey League, which is fun because hockey has those deals where it's like they pepper in. They'll do like 3, 4 out of 5 at a time. Boom, 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 boom. You're like, whoa. It's not the same as a baseball deal or a basketball deal where there's a lot of pieces to it. A lot of them are like 1 for 1 or 1 for, a guy and a couple, draft picks. Those are hockey deals. Now, if you paid attention to the deal that I brought up the other day with Connor McDavid and Braden Pointer and Nikita Kucherov and some of those other guys, that was a unique deal. And I know some people are saying, well, you had draft picks and things. Bro, there's no, what draft picks? Lightning draft picks, they've been trading them all the last couple of years. That would have to be a deal where you're trading either guys on this team right now or guys that are in the AHL, guys that are on the precipice of being with the Bolts. And I know I've been watching a lot of different things and people are getting bent out of shape of me bringing that whole thing up. And listen, it's just a hypothetical, guys. Let's not get bent out of shape. You should see some of the terrible things that people said to me because I posted that video of Connor McDavid and a possible trade to the Tampa Bay Lightning. What does that say about the people in our society now? That you have to attack me and say shitty things about me because you don't agree with a video that I put out about a hypothetical trade? Where have you gotten hurt? Where did somebody touch you? Where did somebody kick you? Where did somebody punch you? Like, chill the fuck out. This is so fucking crazy to me. Like, for me, I enjoy talking about sports. I am not like pull shit out of my ass guy. I am not like, hey, let's talk crap about people. I'm not a microphone. I'm not an MMA fighter. I'm not confrontational. I don't look for fights. But when I put stuff out there, and it's because somebody brought it up on one of the biggest hockey podcasts in the world, yeah, we're going to talk about it, especially if it includes and it has to do with our team here in the Tampa Bay area. So I'm bringing it up. We did thorough research on it. And it's funny because when you look at whether it's Instagram, whether it's Twitter, you have people on one side saying the Lightning, that's an overpay for the Lightning. And then you have people on the other side saying that's not enough for the Edmonton Oilers. I guess that means it's a good deal, because if you have people on each side saying it's too much or it's not enough, maybe it's right down the middle, like a drive on a par 5 right down the fairway. It's the way it goes. It's invigorating. And again, I'm not that hot take guy that's just going to say things to say it. I'm going to back things up with information. And for people, and I know, and shout out our guys on WDA, and they were talking about it, and we're going to talk about it on the Beckles and Recher podcast. And one of the things they were bringing up was the depth with the Tampa Bay Lightning and how that was going to hurt their depth. I couldn't disagree more that it would hurt their depth. If you go with the deal that I presented, Braden Point, Isaac Howard, Jack Finley, and Eric Chernak, okay? Point and McDavid is a flip. Howard wasn't on the team last year. Finley wasn't either. And Chernak, that was actually where you have depth, because you can call Max Crozier up, a guy that played in 3 playoff games. So I don't think it would hurt their depth at all, and you'd still have $3 million on your salary cap. Do your homework, people, before you come at the king, because if you come at the king, you best not miss. And speaking of the king, this guy is king of baseball media right now. He is crushing it on so many different platforms, and a great dude to boot, the one and only Xavier Scruggs. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Hey, what's going on, Jay? All good over here, man. Are you doing all right?
Yeah, I mean, how's it feel to be back home, man? You traveling son of a gun.
Feels good, man. Anytime you're on the road for a little bit and you get to come back home, sleep in your own bed, it's a good feeling. And the kids are off for the summer, so getting to hang out with them, so it's a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, no doubt. I had Denard on yesterday. He sends his love. Just unbelievable. We were watching the game. I was up actually in South Carolina coaching. I'm back on the sidelines again, coaching ball. I was up at Clemson on Wednesday, which was really cool. And then up in South Carolina for a tournament. And we were watching the East-West game and just seeing the celebration of the game. And I mean, how great was that to be able to just see just so many of the African-American players that have been and paved the way, and just everybody was smiling. It was the best part. It was like it was just such a great celebration of the game.
No, it really was. The East-West Classic played at Rickwood Field, one of the oldest Negro League stadiums that they revived last year for the Giants and Cardinals to play at. And you get a whole bunch of, former players that got to get together and play there on Juneteenth last week. And it was special for me. The likes of Andrew Jones, CC Sabathia, Jerry Hairston, Edwin Jackson, who was my teammate for a little bit, Scott Kazmir, Nick Swisher, so many guys that were a part of it. It was really special. And it just reminded me that guys got to get together more often like that. And, good thing there was no injuries. Everybody left healthy, but it was a lot of fun to be with the guys and a really special day to celebrate Juneteenth. And, a lot of the former Black players that have helped pave the way.
Yeah, it's funny. Denard said something yesterday. He goes, I was on deck and Prince Fielder was up at the plate, and he kind of turned around and he goes, we're really out here doing this, right? It seems like a lot of the guys, they needed that because, you and I have talked about this before, but aside from what that does kind of for the future and trying to promote the game, but also I think for you guys as players, you have to fill that void somehow, don't you? As a professional athlete of you're regimented and you're just so focused on making sure you have a routine. Yeah. And that kind of brings you back a little bit, doesn't right? Hey, when I was just focused on baseball, really not much else.
Definitely. It's special because you get to have those conversations with those guys. You don't necessarily always miss the physical aspect on the field, but you do miss those relationships, those conversations, the clubhouse talk, the sitting and chopping it up, telling stories and making fun of the guys. That's the stuff that you don't get to feel as much. And then that competitiveness when you get out there on the field. So that was a lot of fun for me and a bunch of the guys there.
And the fun doesn't stop there. You go to Fanatics. I mean, that must have been a zoo to go there. What was your favorite part of that? I mean, how could even just to be, even if you're working, you're a fly on the wall, everybody who is there. What was that like?
No, it was nuts. Like you never really find places where you get so many personalities, whether it be athletes, whether it be broadcasters, media, actors, so many different types of people, artists, music artists, all that stuff, man. It was special to be able to rub elbows with a lot of different people. Obviously, a huge networking type of event as well. MLB had an amazing activation where they had to where you can pitch on the mound, and try to collect a certain amount of points. You could, hit in the cage. There was hit tracks. There was to where you could see all the bats and how special some of these bats are being made now. You had players coming through there, and it was really special to see. And also, Boardroom did a collaboration with MLB, which is really cool because, to see the culture and how everything's kind of evolved to where baseball can be recognized almost the same way basketball and football are now, to where personalities can be expressed is really, really cool.
Yeah, we need that. And we always talk about how to grow the game. When you look at what both of the events that you went to, that's got to be a step in the right direction, right? As far as growing the game, because this is a game that you and I love. And I still think there's work that needs to be done. Where else do you think there are those kind of gaps to where it could be more appealing, I guess, to a broader audience rather than what do you need to appeal? I didn't think the games are going too slow. Yeah, pitch clock is great now, but I was never a guy like, man, these games are really long. Like, that's just what it was. I enjoyed that. Hey, man, if you're down 9-0 in the fifth, you got a chance to come back and win. You're not coming back. The Lightning ain't coming back from a 9-0 deficit in a game,
Right,
So
yeah.
what are some of the other things that you've seen maybe in the last year or two, or just anything that comes to mind that can make it maybe more appealing to a broader audience?
Yeah, the biggest thing to me is, and I think we're starting to see it, is some of the brands, collaborating with young creators to help, make it seem cool, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
it's the Franklin batting gloves of the world collaborating with young creators, whether that's via YouTube, podcast, TikTok, all that stuff, man. It's like those are staples that will never leave. Like the
Right.
Rawlings of the world, right?
Mhm.
The Eastons of the world, the Wilsons of the world, those big brands that have been with baseball basically from the jump, and the new brands coming in. Example of that is like Bruce Bolt, and what you're seeing with,
Mhm.
some of the young ones coming in. Those are the types of collaborations that will continue to make the game seem sexy, will make it seem
Right.
cool, will make it seem vibrant, fun. That's what NBA and NFL does so well. They collaborate with brands and make it seem like this is the thing to do. I think
Mhm.
that's the huge part of it, is the brands, and they're starting to take those steps forward to recognize that.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think we investing in some of these young players, the Acuñas of the world and the Ellies of the world and guys like that, and just seeing what they do. And it's
Yeah,
funny you bring up Franklin. Were you a Franklin batting glove guy?
I
Yeah.
was, yeah.
I wore Franklin batting gloves my whole life because it's so pristine. Just a Franklin on the front. It's so, and then a multitude of colors. And listen, I always told kids, if you knew, you know, when Wilson A2000 comes out, like if you say Wilson A2000 to a baseball guy, you're like, oh, that glove is probably fire. I remember Brandon Phillips had some badass gloves back in the day. I remember
Yeah.
Roberto Alomar had some badass gloves back in the day. Lindor's another guy. Like, I
Mhm.
think there's a fashion side of it too, right? Like, I always thought
Absolutely.
about that for myself because when I was playing, I had a wristband in red, I had a wristband in blue, another one in red, another one in blue. I had, red and blue, red, white, and blue. Like, that was my thing. Like, you
Mhm.
dress good, you play good, you play, you dress good, you feel good, you play good. I mean, you didn't want to be all show and no go though, because if you're a
Right.
guy that dresses like that and you go 0 for 4 with 4 ponchas, bro, people are going to say, just take all that stuff off, buddy. You're not good enough. How cool was it to see a guy like Jack Caglione make his debut and go with the Royals? I mean, this is a guy that obviously we keep a close eye on here, being from Tampa, playing high school, Florida Gator. But to be able to see a kind of young guy like that come up with some hits, couple of home runs, I mean, that's another guy I think we should all be looking at. And you combine him with Bobby Witt Jr., like Kansas City, even though they did lose last night, they got to be one of those young teams, I think, that you look at and say, hey, we should really be paying a lot of attention to, because I think as the years go on, they're going to get even better and better.
Absolutely, man. I think, personally, knowing Jack and seeing the strides that he's made as a player, is really special. Got to cover him even while he was at University of Florida. The power, unreal. That type of power only comes out once in a generation, right? A couple times a generation. So to see some of the strides that he's made, even at the big league level, the first, week wasn't great necessarily,
Right.
especially at home in Kansas City, but making some adjustments in Texas, then hitting those 2 home runs there. That's what comes along with it, ups and downs. But the one thing about Jack is he's got a great head on his shoulders. Amazing parents. He understands his priorities, knows that he has something special as far as the platform that he carries. He's going to be just fine, man. I'm excited for him. Bobby Witt Jr., obviously, that Kansas City team that you're talking about that the Rays got done hitting off of yesterday. It's going to be special. Anytime you talk about young talent that can impact the game, not only their team, but impact the game, it's going to go pretty far, and a lot of success is on the way.
And of course, Salvi's still there. I feel like I made this joke the other day. I feel like Salvi Perez played with George Brett. He's been there that long. I mean, he's just such a beast, man. Such a beast. Let's talk about our Rays here in the Tampa Bay area. I mean, my goodness, they're only 1 game behind the New York Yankees now in the AL East. That would have been crazy to think just probably 6 weeks ago. But man, they've kind of figured out how to play at Steinbrenner Field. Their pitching is doing what they do. And then I think a guy in Jonathan Aranda, who's been crushing it, Junior Caminero. I mean, from your perspective, what's been the things that have stood out to you the most about this team that is really the hottest in baseball?
Well, I think the first thing that you mentioned is, learning how to play at Steinbrenner. That was a circumstance that could have been used as an excuse to struggle this year, right? And we've seen them take advantage of it. And when I mean take advantage, we've seen guys know how to hit at that park specifically, guys being able to take advantage of right center, balls flying out to right field. It's been cool to watch guys go about their business. And even so, guys that started off struggling, like a Yandy Diaz, starting to like pick it up, getting it going. It's just the length of the season can beat you up. But the guys that, notoriously have found success, a Brandon Lau, same thing goes for him, having those ups and downs, but also understanding he's going to get his numbers. A Josh Lowe, he's going to get his numbers, but you got to love the young Junior Camineros, the Arandas, right? Aranda's going to be an all-star. Like, there is no doubt that this dude deserves a spot.
Do you think that's going to happen? Because like, that's the thing is, like, I think here locally, we look at his stats. I mean, look at what he's able to do. I got the stats right. He's batting 332. And I think he's still sometimes flying under the radar. You look at Paulie Goldschmidt, and we know Paul, right? Like, he's an incredible player, doing a really good job in his first year with the Yankees. And I still think there's trepidation here, whether people know enough about Jonathan Aranda that he's going to make the All-Star team. Do you think he's done enough?
Yeah, I do. I think the recognition is there within the industry. Obviously, Tampa may not get like 4 or 5 guys. So if it came down to them getting one representative, I would believe that it would be him.
That's great.
But to your point, it's just he's got to keep going, right? And it goes for all the rest of these guys. I think what we knew is that the rotation would be okay,
right?
And I feel like they've given him a chance every single night to be able to win a ball game. But now the offense has exploded, and it's a different guy every single night, right? Danny Jensen last night, a guy, the OPS under 700, steps up early in the game. Like, it's just somebody different. And I love seeing kind of the camaraderie within this team too, to be able to play at home. Now they're going to be on the road for quite a while. Now it's road time.
Road
I was
warriors.
talking about sleeping in my own bed earlier. They're not going to be doing that. They're going to be on the road. They're going to be figuring out where to eat and doing this and that. So they will be tested right here. But I think the advantage is that they've gone through a tough thing already and having to play in a park that it was not their home.
Yeah, no doubt. Yandy Diaz, we just brought it up. In his last 15 games, 29 for 64, 4 dingers, 10 RBIs, 453 average, and his on base is 507. You're getting on base over 500% of the time, 500% of the 50% of the time in his last 15 games. I was getting on him a little bit because I said, dude, second year in a row, slow start. Now his average is back up to 289.
Right.
I think it's insane. I want to ask you this question because I think you're the perfect guy to ask. And I was having this conversation when we were driving up and down to South Carolina. People talk about, bringing excitement to the game. And, what happened in the late 90s with McGuire and Sosa, and then later on with Barry Bonds.
Yeah. Huh.
After the strike in 94. But I think you look at the game now, especially looking at college, I don't think the excitement just comes from home runs. And I think it's, if you play a little bit small ball and the guys, and there's action. I want action on the base pass, bunts, speed. Look no further than a guy that the Rays just called back up in Chandler Simpson. I think he is the perfect example of a guy that, you're not going to look at his swing and say, hey, look, compare that to Ken Griffey, right? Or, you know what I mean? It's not the way but that's the great thing about baseball. You could be 5'5" or 6'5", and you could still be a Hall of Famer. Do you think Chandler Simpson is that type of guy? Do you think, what is your thoughts on playing a little bit more small ball and having this game be so more about action rather than the 3 true outcomes where it's like, oh, if you don't hit a home run, oh, it's okay if you strike out? Because I think, to me, that works in a negative way where there's a lot of non-action pitches in the game. I think it hurts it.
Yeah, I think, to your point, I think we're starting to get back to more of that athleticism.
Good.
Guys being able to take the extra base, guys obviously stealing more bases, the defensive aspect of the game, because we can quantify how much ground is being covered by certain guys. Like, that importance is there. And that everybody wants the long ball. There's no doubt about that, right? Well, you say chicks dig the long ball, that ain't going away. But I think what we do realize too is that there's an element of the game in which, when you can put pressure on the opposing defense, you find yourself with more opportunities to hit the long ball, right? Like someone like Chandler Simpson coming back into the fold after, working on his defense, they said, right? I think now you see someone that puts pressure on the defense that gives the next guy an opportunity, whether it be Brandon Lau, whether it be, Yandy Diaz, whoever it may be, Aranda. You extend the inning, okay, there's another opportunity for the big boys to come up and do some damage. So I think it really goes both ways, right? If you're going to have swing and miss guys, you better have some contact guys that can get on base and force the issue as well. And to your point, the product gets better. And I think that's why Tampa's product has always been on par, because they found the blend of those types of players.
Who is the player or the team that has surprised you, whether it's a good or in a good way or a bad way so far this season?
Yeah, I think you asked me this the last time I was on, and I can't remember who I said, maybe the Giants or someone like that. But I think right now I'm looking at the Cardinals are a team in the National League. If we could go to the other league for a minute, that now beaten up on the Cubs a couple of times. They're a team that we didn't expect to do anything because they were doing a reset. That's what we heard all offseason. But now they're forcing an issue. They have an opportunity to make the postseason via wild card. It may be tough to win the division, but I think we should start taking that team a little bit seriously. On the contrary, in the American League, the Texas Rangers have surprised me in a negative way.
What's up with those guys, man? What's up with those guys?
It's weird because we was giving them so much love for how offensive they were going to be, and we haven't seen the offense. And I think when your best player has struggled, in a Corey Seager, that does a lot, right? A Marcus Semien has not done what we've seen him do typically. Adolis Garcia, who trains here in Tampa as well, hasn't quite gotten to the start that we've expected. It's been tough watching their offense. And once again, we've seen Houston just quietly go about their business and at the top of that division.
All right, before I let you go, who is the one guy that owned you when you were in the batter's box, and who was the one guy that you owned?
Max Scherzer owned me.
That's not something to be ashamed of.
Yeah, no, I'm not ashamed of that at all. I mean, he's gonna be a Hall of Famer, 3-time Cy Young.
Three-time Cy Young, 2 different color eyes, 17 pitches. What a beast.
Man. You know who I got was Jake Arrieta. And this is not, and remember, he Cy Young winner himself. So he actually went to TCU, Texas Christian University. I went to UNLV. We played each other in college, owned him in college, and then I think minor leagues maybe got on him a little bit. Then in the major leagues, played against each other, St. Louis and the Cubs, got him too. So, that was one of those guys I saw really well when everybody else was really struggling against. So that was one of the guys, man. It was, but it's fun remembering those types of at bats and those types of moments because you're competing against each other, going back and you know what he's done against you. He knows what you've done. Now it's like the chess match, and that's where it's so much fun, man. Thank you for taking me back to those moments.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. What's the rest of your week looking like, X? You a little quieter this week or what?
Yeah, no, I'm chilling a little bit. And then Friday we got Apple Friday baseball pregame show. So if you got Apple, hopefully you streaming the games there on Friday night. And then, man, I'm hitting the beach for a minute. I'm gonna go to Sarasota, Siesta Key. I'm gonna go chill little July 4th week. I'm gonna be doing some work, but I'm gonna get some family time in before we hit the home stretch here pretty soon.
Good for you. And the kids are growing up. The kids are getting bigger. I mean, before it's so funny, social media, you see the kids. I was saying this with Dinar, the kids are bigger and bigger and bigger. Like, holy smokes. I mean, when you go away on vacation, you come back, do they get even bigger?
It's like they change it. They're a whole new person when you come back, man. I was like, I was gone 3 days. How are you? How are you now saying words that I don't even know what they mean? That doesn't even make sense.
We could use them in the next time you're on the tube, man. That'll be great.
Exactly.
ESPN MLB Network's Xavier Scruggs. I said it before and I'll say it again, buddy. I think you are at the top, if not the top, when it comes to sports media right now, not just in baseball, but in all sports, because when you crack the mic, it has nothing to do with personal agendas or bias or hot takes or anything like that. You are a student of the game and you are smarter when you listen to what you have to say. So continue being you, man, because as much as you're a great analyst and all that stuff, you're an even better human being. So I appreciate our friendship and just continue the great work, man. You're the bee's knees.
Oh, man, that's love, man. Jay, I appreciate you. Anytime you have me on here, man, keep doing your thing. Give my love to the fam, and we'll talk soon, man.
You got it, pal. Enjoy. Get some rest, would you?
We can't do that.
Yeah. Thanks,
right,
buddy.
Man.
Talk soon. The great Xavier Scruggs. The man, like, we talk about this on the show a lot, right? I mentioned it before with the whole Connor McDavid thing. People get so fucking bent out of shape of like commentary and just having normal conversations. Like, X is the man. He's on ESPN and the MLB Network. Right? Like, that doesn't happen. That kind of thing doesn't happen. And Apple. You don't hire people like that unless they're not just great at what they do, but also just good human beings, like to his core. And years ago, Xavier, like right when he was in the beginning of getting all that stuff, he came up to me. He was like, bro, I love your Recher's Rapid Reactions. I watch all of them. And I'm like, yeah. And this is a guy that's one of the most talented people, I think, in the industry. There was an article written today about John Mamola wrote it for Barrett Sports Media. You guys should go watch it. We're going to talk about this a little bit more on the Beckles and Recher podcast a little bit later at 3:00. But talking about, how sports radio needs to be more combative, and there needs to be beefs and issues and back and forth and arguments and things like that. Is that what we want? Is that what you really want as a sports fan? I don't give a shit. I don't really care. I don't want to see Stephen A. and Skip Bayless arguing again. I mean, at the time in its infancy, I think it was cool because it was new. I don't want to see that now. I don't want to see people arguing. I don't want Emmanuel Acho telling me why Kevin Durant sucks when he's one of the best shooters of the basketball ever. Right? I don't want to hear Joy Taylor go on a podcast and tell me that the only reason why people know who Caitlin Clark is because of Angel Reese. I don't care. I don't care about things like that. I don't want to see Stephen A. Smith and Bob Myers, the general manager of the then Golden State Warriors. Like, that's not appealing to me. Having these guys yell at each other during halftime of the NBA Finals. Nobody's watching that. We're getting farther and farther away from that stuff. Maybe that's the reason why radio is going down. Because people just want to listen to what's going on. They want to be entertained, but they want to be informed. Give me somebody that's going to say it straight. Give me some real talk. But you don't have to like talk shit, or you don't have to get into fights with people. Like, there's enough of that in the world. Go look at your news stations. Go look at everything that leads the news. It's always drama and despair and the war and this and that. Like, people don't want that with sports. It's an escape from reality. right? We should be able to have fun. We should be able to go back and forth and be able to have differing opinions, but not have to like scream at each other and be combative. Like, I don't know. I don't. It's a new world. It's a new day. It's a new day. Yes, it is. It's just weird to me. And, you know, you look at guys like Stephen A. Smith, who has led the charge for stuff like this. And he got his, you know, I know where he got his start, but really when he hit the mainstream was when he was with Skip Bayless on First Take, going back and forth. And I think at the time, because it was fresh and it was new, I think a lot of people would look at that situation and then look at it now. And you're like, I think that's come and gone. I don't think people like that anymore. ESPN oversaturates all of their products with Stephen A. Smith. It's a lot. It's a lot. People are like, I'm good. We're fine. Thank you. We're fine. All right. Make sure before we get to our guy, Eddie Encina, who's going to join us, and shout out to Hammer. Good. That perfect timing. Great stuff as always. Annoying. Even McAfee's fallen off a bit. You're not, it's not an unpopular opinion. A lot of people are saying that same thing right now about him. And I don't disagree with you. Pat McAfee is kind of wearing on a bunch of people. Make sure you go check out my friends, Honest Hammer Custom Builders, LLC, Residential Commercial, 813-244-0956. I just went to the website, thehonesthammer.com. Listen, we'll show you real quick while I have it up. Ed Encina is going to join us in a second. Look at this website, man. Clean as a whistle, boy. Look at all that. Unbelievable. Easy to operate. Look at all the remodels, renovations, new construction, commercial construction. Just give him a call. 813-244-0956. Give Hammer a call. It's the same guy that you saw on the show the other day. He's been with us back in the DAE days, right here with us on the J Recher podcast. You have any questions about things like that, give him a shout. Just have the conversation. Tell them that you heard it right here on the J Recher podcast. You'll get a discount. And this is just one of those people. You want to help local businesses in the Tampa Bay area. This is the way to do it. 813-244-0956. There's the QR code right there. Scan it. And again, give him a shout today. Great dude. And talk some sports too. He'll do it as well. All right. Let's have some fun, and we'll do it with our guy, and let's see if he really enjoys his there he is. The original Oos, Eddie Encina.
Jay, what's up, man?
What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Pretty good, my dog. Pretty good.
Did you see my picture that I put up on Twitter?
Oh, of me?
Of you? Yeah.
Yeah, I had the old money in the bank briefcase out there.
Brother, that was hilarious. I was like, what am I going to do? I'm going to put up, because now when I have like the little banners on the bottom now, I'm always going to do something fun. So Ian, I did the 5th best right guard in Bucks history. The original Oos, Eddie Encina. Yeah, I'm just going to keep it fresh, keep it funky here on the program. How's the quote unquote offseason been, my guy?
Well, I'll be honest, like it seems like the Lightning have done something like at least moderately minor pretty regularly. You know, I mean, they've made some signings, kind of minor signings, obviously, but still kind of things that kind of shore up the roster ahead of the draft and free agency here. So, yeah, I mean, it's been good. I took a trip to New York last week. Went to Fanatics Fest, so that was kind of cool.
Oh, you did go to Fanatics Fest. Awesome. What was your favorite part of that?
So I think what's pretty cool about it is that like literally you can walk the floor and some celebrity / athlete can like walk by you. I mean, like, yeah, I literally bumped into like DJ Khaled, like walking in, and you can tell who they are once you see their entourages, right? Like they're basically got like 10 people around them, and then the longer they walk through the floor, like you've got probably 50 kids and photo selfie / autograph seekers following them in tow. So you never really know. Like I think I was behind DeMar Hamlin. Oh wow! Like just walking along the floor, and no one really knew who he was because he had a pretty small entourage until people started kind of catching on. So I think that was pretty cool. Just that at any time you never knew who you could kind of literally bump into. And obviously I went there for kind of the WWE people because Fanatics like a lot of like the pro athletes. I'm a collector. I collect comic books, cards, autographs, Funkos. He's a collector.
I'm
a collector. Yeah. Right. And so, but in terms of like the autographs and stuff like that, like the only ones that were really like realistically under $100 were the WWE, were the wrestlers. And, so, and those legitimately were the only ones that really sold out. So it actually was a really, strong commentary as to the popularity of it, especially when, and obviously the price point matters too, but like, the lines that they had, and the fact that how much WWE was committed to the event too, because a lot of those, wrestlers like basically were in Grand Rapids on SmackDown.
Yeah, I know.
Friday night, and then in New York at the Javits Center at 9:00 on Saturday morning. So, I mean, like I said, the lines were huge. Like, everyone's like Cena, Punk, all the big names. Taker was there. Huge names. And
did you meet anybody? Did you go over?
I got so Sami Zayn. I went cost efficient plus like what I thought, people I wanted to kind of.
You went off the grain. You went off the grain a little bit, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. A little bit. So like, I wasn't gonna blow a bunch of money too either. So
true.
Sami Zayn, my girl Chelsea Green, of course Tiffy Time, and Alexa Bliss, because I actually got to show you the photo because you actually do photo ops too.
Oh.
And so I have one with her doing this. With
nice.
So that's what I was actually going to bring it up, but I forgot to bring it up before.
That's right. Where did Shannon go, or was it just you?
Yeah, so Shannon went because her company was doing the show, the grading company that she works for. So we were up there for a family event. Our nephew was graduating high school up there too. So we kind of made a whole big deal about it. So and stayed up there. She worked, I played basically.
There you go.
So so it was good to kind of get out of town a little bit, out of the heat and everything like that. And then but yeah, here we are, we're back.
Come right back to the heat. There you go.
Yep.
So let's get into one of the big topic of conversations, and I brought it up and posted a video on it, and now people think I'm crazy. Connor McDavid to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Obviously, we heard it on Spitting Chicklets, and I'm not one of those people that really subscribe to rumors and innuendo and things like that. But when you're talking about the greatest hockey player on the planet right now and possibly coming to our city, what was your first impression when you heard about that? Because I posted a video on what a deal would look like. And I got people from Tampa saying it's an overpay. I got people from Edmonton saying that it's not enough. It's got, tens of thousands of views now. What was your impression when you heard that? Did it pique your interest a little bit? Or like, oh, maybe this could happen? Or was it just, hey, this is just random BS?
Yeah, for sure. One, I think, this time of year it's kind of like the trade deadline. All this stuff kind of comes out of nowhere. And some of it has substance. A lot of it has some substance and some of it doesn't. It does make sense in a sense of, at this point in time, like I honestly still think Connor McDavid stays in Edmonton. I think, do too. That's if you put it all on the board, I think that's the thing I pick. And it's not unfamiliar for the Lightning to at this time of the year be connected to certain players. And obviously, like you said, this is the A1, right? But at the end of the day, the way I think about it is like, yes, like it would make sense for him want to come here. Absolutely. And that's just given the organization's reputation. There's no doubt. I mean, there's, I think probably maybe people forget how, John Cooper might have rubbed off on Connor over the Four Nations, He
couldn't, that's the thing is, before you keep going, that couldn't not have happened. Absolutely. Right? Like there's no way, and Coop as well as I do, like there's no, regardless of whether that's the end all be all, there's no way that Connor McDavid is leaving the Four Nations, leaving a couple of years ago, Team North America, all that thing. There's no way he's going away going, I don't like John Cooper, or I don't want to play for that guy. Right? Like that's just not it. It may just be this much of a difference, but it is something.
Yeah, and it has to be a factor, right? Because I don't think many players I don't know any players who come out of playing for Coop and come out of being like, that's not a guy I want to play for. and that's a huge statement if that is a factor, because in a lot of ways the Oilers hired Chris Knobloch, for Connor. He coached them in with the Erie Otters and juniors, and they had a long history together. So there's certain things that make it make sense, right? Now at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is you're trying to win a cup, right? And both of these teams are, when you look at Edmonton and the Lightning, they're both teams that aren't very far away from doing that. Obviously, the Oilers were a lot closer this past year than the Lightning were, but I honestly don't think that, if the Lightning don't run into the Panthers in the first round, they could have made a run as well.
Right.
But when you have, and then you talk about how you're building that kind of team, and I just don't see how the Lightning can acquire a Connor McDavid without taking away what they've built to be a consistent contender. And I did read I watched your video, and I do honestly think that it does start with someone like a Braden Point.
Yeah.
And it's not to say they want to move Braden Point at all, or
not
Braden Point or anything like that. But that's just the kind of player that you probably need to move, salary wise, contract length wise, and impact wise,
talent wise,
right? Talent wise, that would make that even start, right? And at the end of the day, I do think that I just don't know if the Lightning would want to give up so much to, the one. I mean, and this is probably going to get me in trouble, but the one guy that I, probably have struggled with is Chernak, and that's, just because you build it, it's clear that this team has really rebuilt its mindset around its decor, and Nick Perbix is probably gone as we've heard, Max Crozier's waiting in the wings, but when you build that defensive core, you're building along the big four, right? Those top two pairings, and obviously we're going to have a big kind of news point with what happens with Ryan McDonough and his contract extension, whether he'll remain with the Lightning beyond next year. But I just don't see them moving a guy like that, because those guys, the one thing that Julian Breezeball has done that he probably doesn't get a ton of credit for is taking advantage of these like really what are going to look like super value long-term deals during the flat cap. And that goes from when he signed Sergachev, Cirelli, Chernak, to the Hagel extension, the Nick Paul extension is a great deal, or even the Braden Point deal, right? And these are gonna become so much more valuable. And obviously, he's already shown that he can use those as Trey's assets, because he did that with the Sergachev trade. Like whether the Sergachev contract aged well, who knows? Would have aged well here, but he saw the value that would gain as the salary cap spikes. What is it, $20-25 million over the next 4 or 5 years, and looked at that and said, okay, this is a player that we can the asset is not just a player, it's the contract. And so he does have that flexibility. He has that flexibility with some of these deals, and and including the Point contract, which I think he signed for another, I want to say at least 5 years, at 9.5, which if Braden Point continues to be that kind of player, is a huge bargain. And at the end of the day too, the thing is you're paying for Connor McDavid, and you want to make sure he stays, right? I mean, and
I think that's the caveat, though. If you're going to trade for a guy, like, you have that in the works of like, hey, you're going to sign here, right?
And what it's going to cost. And obviously, there's no doubt that a lot of these guys have taken hometown discounts to stay here on their big deals. I mean, Nikita Kucherov, his deal's going to end in a couple of years, but when you think about him making $9.5 million a year for what the kind of player he is, that's amazing. So you're going to see, but again, Julian has done an incredible job of creating value with these deals, and also using them as assets as he did with the Sergachev trade. So long story short, it's an amazing thing to talk about, and I think it's an amazing thing to conceptualize, and everyone pulls up their real GM kind of thing on it too. And I just don't know how the Lightning make that work without taking away from a lot of what they've really kind of built to create a team that is, right there, and continuously right there. I mean, because that's the thing. I mean, as we know from talking to him over and over again, is that Julian, as much as he wants to win now, he wants to win 5 years down the road, whether he's here or not. He wants to get this team in good shape to be consistently a contending team for the Stanley Cup. And
I think Ed, sorry, I think that's where I think sometimes when you have a situation like this, maybe you're too close to the forest to see the trees. and I'm not just saying you, I'm saying me, I'm saying the team, objectively, right? And I understand this year is you can make that it's a different thing because you ended up losing to the Stanley Cup champions. But do you think you run the risk of being so in love with what worked 5 years ago that you're not able to really tell what your team is right now? Right. That's what I worry about with the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I worry about this with every team, right? I mean, you look at it across sports, right? Look at the Texas Rangers. They're terrible right now, right? And there's still people in Texas saying, well, we won this World Series 2 years ago. This isn't the same team. And as much as we want to talk about what the Tampa Bay Lightning have done in the past, like I was thinking about this last night. Point, Kucherov, Cirelli. 3 forwards out of the 12 are guys that were on that Stanley Cup team. 3 defensemen, McDonough, Chernak, and Hedman. That's it. You have 6 guys. So as much as we want to talk about championship pedigree with this team, and of course you can add Gensel and what he was able to. Oh, okay, you can add Yanni Gourde as well, or Yanni in there. But still, 4 of your 12 forwards, half of your decor, you already got McDonough once, and he's not getting any younger. Am I wrong in thinking that maybe the Lightning need to look at this possibly a little bit in a different way of instead of like, hey, this is what worked in the past? Because if you're not changing and you're not evolving with the times, and we saw it with their defense, right? Their defense went in the crapper, and then it's like, all right, last year it got better, and because you got Ryan McDonough back, but I think, you got Moser and, you got Gensel, better 5-on-5 guy. So I think if you get too much in the, well, this is what we did in 2020, it's 2025, it's going to be 2026. Do they run the risk of trying to use a recipe that may be a little bit outdated? Is probably the way that I'm going to phrase that question.
Yeah, there's no doubt you've got to, So let's take a step back here. So obviously they went and got McDonough, right? And a 34-year-old Ryan McDonough.
Right.
As of now, that looks like a good trade. How does it age next year? Defensemen can go kaput really quickly as they age, right? They're like goaltenders, like anyone, right? They signed Yanni Gourde to a big extension that they're going to pay him for a long time at age, 30, 31, 32, I think, 33 maybe I think he is. So they've kind of got locked into some of that like mentality of like, we can recreate the magic. The one thing that I do think, and this is where McDavid also does fit in, is, when you look at the, I guess they're the next tier of the veteran core, which is those guys that were locked up in the deals. They're all in the 28, 29-year-old, 27, 29-year-old range. And that includes Point, and so there is another, like there is that next tier of guys who, conceivably are still reaching their peak, right?
They're prime.
And the other thing about Point, and this isn't to knock him at all, but the reason they traded Mikhail Sergachev isn't because they didn't like him, but I do think he went along with that caveat of what their goal was last offseason, which was to get better defensively. And it was no mistake. And I think, from talking to Mikhail in Utah, when I went up there, I think he admitted it, is that he struggled with that new defensive system that they had. He wasn't the defensive player that he wanted to be. He probably wasn't the defensive player that they wanted him to be.
Right.
And when you look at the guys who they said they moved on from, which was Steven Stamkos and Mikhail Sergachev last offseason, those were 2 guys who, had kind of struggled with their two-way games. And obviously, like you said, you add Gensel. Moser's probably, a better defensive player, adding him in, if you add him in point for point for Sergachev, even though they don't play the same position, really. But, so it's that too. Now, then then there's the playoffs, right? I mean, this team was a very good team in the regular season. And then obviously, whether they meet the Panthers or not, I do think there's certain things of the way this team plays that would have come to bite them eventually. And I think a big part of that was, I hate to use the word toughness, but you know what I mean. I mean? They didn't have those guys who could really get under other teams' skin, who could really push guys around a lot and really kind of
push back. That's it. Yeah.
And instill that kind of, there's not a fear in hockey, but there is, when everything's going and going and going, you've gone through an 82 game season, you're going through, a physical playoff series after series. There is this thing that you want to implant on your opponent's mind of like, man, do I really want to go in that corner?
Right.
Do I really want to, go through this traffic, and the good teams with that, I know we always talk about the third line back in the good old days, but like those Lightning teams had that, and obviously
that's what Florida has now.
the blueprint's a little bit different, but that's that kind of you needing that along with forward depth is necessary, And so to answer your question, I think you're right. I do think that there have been some signs here that they're trying to kind of remake the recipe with the same things, but at the end of the day, like the Florida Panthers were I think the best thing the Panthers did this year, I thought that they were going to be toast because I think they lost too much forward depth, but then they just kind of reinvented it. You know what I mean? I mean, like when they lost Lomberg and Stenlund and those guys that don't make a ton of money, but they make that.
They lost Montour as well.
Montour. They set a tone and they just fit in a system so well, and they just they come after you line after line after line, and I think that was something that this team kind of lacked a little bit, whether it was, and I'm not talking about depth scoring, I'm just talking about like line after line after line, and I do think that you do have to be careful of that when you think about upgrading too, or thinking about getting guys from the past too. So I think, I do think that they we'll see how the McDonough and Gord, long-term acquisitions work out. But at the end of the day, they know the recipe because they've done it. And again, like, I honestly think that, I think you heard Paul Maurice talk about this, during that series, is that when he wasn't coaching, he was watching the other teams win Stanley Cups, watching them on TV and looking back and saying, okay, what do those guys have? And there's no doubt. I think he'll be one of the first to tell you that he looked at those 20 and 21 teams and was like, man, they do this. And when I get back, this is how we need to do stuff, and it's just that they just come after you and after you and after you, and like that famous clip that we always see of like, is just pound them. And then at the end, they're not going to have anything left. And that's really what the playoffs is about. And in some ways it overmatches the skill. And so when we talk about guys like Kucherov, McDavid, Draisaitl, guys who, have this enormous talent, those guys we've seen it get, neutralized,
Yeah, no doubt about it. And that's why when I asked, and I had him on the show while you were away, probably JJ Moser, which was a great conversation. Yeah. He actually called in from Switzerland, which was pretty badass.
Moser's a great guy.
He's unbelievable. But I asked him during the year, I was like, what about this team sets it apart from everybody else? And he goes, the skill. And I thought to myself, I don't know if I love that answer, because you're speaking like a guy, you know what I mean? Like, I look at it and I go, there's a lot of teams with skill, but that's not what any of the Stanley Cup champs would have said, right? They wouldn't have said the skill. They would have said the grit or the determination or the, staying together when things go bad. And it was just, listen, he hasn't been in those situations before, even though he played pretty well. I don't think there's anything that he did wrong. Mr. Magic. Go ahead.
That it's because I actually asked JJ the kind of the same, I don't know if it was the same wording or not, but his answer to me was the calm. Was the fact that, nothing, they're not too high, not too low. And that can be good and bad because, when things are going well, that's good. But when the playoffs come and a team, is leaning on you and they score 2 goals in 12 seconds on you, calm can kind of go out the window a little bit.
Right. You need somebody to kick in the pants somewhere.
Right. Someone needs to say like, hey, let's get going here, And I'm not saying they lack that at that moment. I mean, we can go back at that series and overanalyze and say, I know we talked a lot about whether they lost that series in game 1 or they lost it in game 4 game 4. But, there's a lot of things that, and again, like it takes a lot to win a Stanley Cup. I think one thing I do think is the fans here have gotten a little spoiled with that of like understanding just how hard this is. I got spoiled with it. My first year on this beat, they won a Stanley Cup. And I think we all did, but I think the more you look at it, the more you see that how hard this really, really is.
I think the team went downhill when you guys went to get lunch at that place that you got food out of your lockers. I think that's the thing. Once those crazy sandwich shops in South Florida, it all went downhill from there.
You know what? It probably coincided with that.
Cooper was so focused on that rather than something else. Mr. Magic, I sense something big is going to happen these coming days from Julien Brisebois, even if it's not a Connor McDavid deal. Nobody saw, and it's so funny. Hindsight's always 2020. I put this out a couple of weeks ago saying, about Mitch Marner, because Coop loves Mitch Marner.
Yep.
And he's talking about taking a bridge deal. And you just wonder, like, if the Lightning, I truly believe if the Lightning do like make some kind of move, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they got Mitch Marner in some form or fashion, the same way they did last year with Gensel. And I put that out there and somebody's like, oh no, the Lightning were in on Gensel. I looked it up then and I looked it up now. The Lightning were not even a figment of the imagination when it came to Jake Gensel. There was a lot of different teams in there. There was one that had 10 teams on there and they weren't on there. And Julian found a way. I mean, you open things up and you need a right-handed shot, right? You need a right-handed shot that's going to be able to help you on the side. And you want to talk about a two-way forward. This is one of the better penalty killers. Just imagine having Cirelli and Hagel as your first penalty killing unit, or even Cirelli and Marner, and then Hagel and Gord, or so, right? Like, I mean, it's a multitude of options there. If he does make a move, do you think it's position-wise to get somebody out, to get somebody in? If you could just put your GM hat on here, what do you think JBB is looking at right now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, right now, even though they made that trade to clear the Sergachev trade to clear cap space, a lot of that obviously went to Gensel. So you're looking at, when you're filling the roster right now, you've got about, I think it's $3.5 million of cap space. You still got to sign, Gage Gonsalves, to a kind of a bridge deal for him. Not going to be a big deal, it's not gonna kill you, but still money. And then you probably still need another forward. But I mean, obviously those big splash moves they're going to be money in, money out in a lot of ways. You're going to have to lose a guy, even if, and I know that, it's been written about as the concept of these bridge deals with this salary cap going up and becoming, more of a thing. And I think that's a very valid, possibility with guys like Marner. And you mentioned some great things with, they needed a right-hand shot. They didn't have one until Bjorkstrand got in. Putting a guy like that on a power play would be amazing. And like you said, he's an amazing two-way player. You can just slot into the PK. Those guys, both of those guys, him and Matthews, like, don't get enough credit for what they playing, special teams on both sides. But I think, if we believe what he was saying at the exit interviews, in the sense of, I like what we had. I like, I think we addressed a lot of our concerns last offseason. You would think that he's not going to have one of these splash moves. But again, last year, I think he ran the ultimate misdirection on us all. And while we were all following Steven Stamkos, he went out and traded Mikhail Sergachev and traded for, Jake Gensel's rights. So a matter of what, 2 or 3 days. So at the draft, the Sergachev trade was, at the draft. So there's no doubt that he is not going to leave any stone unturned. And I do believe it when a lot of these national guys have said that, Julian Breezeball is this ultra competitive guy. He is not happy about the way that this team, has finished the past 3 years. He's certainly not happy about the fact that the team in Sunrise has won back-to-back, Stanley Cup championships, and that sticks in his craw. And, I think more than ever, he's going to be super motivated to make this team better, but it's not going to be at the cost of,
mortgaging
taking away from the existing core that's going to make them competitive over the long haul for the next, 4 or 5 seasons. So that's why right now, I think it's probably, we're looking at more kind of those, patchwork kind of, not patchwork, but, filling in the roster, and again, I do think that this team is a lot more confident. Some of the guys that they have waiting in the wings, we talked about Crozier, and Gonsalves is a great case study and a guy who had a lot of growth over the course of, a season. Jack Finley, if he can stay healthy, that's a guy that, you can fit in. And there's other guys too. I mean, like, I don't think guys, and I might get maybe you girl for this, but I don't think guys like Zemgus Girgensons get enough credit for what they did and the contract that they signed him to. Like, this is a guy who's only making $850,000 for 3 years, and he could probably essentially slot into that fourth line center role. He's played both center wing. He's a physical guy. He's probably more physical than people really think. But I do think that they need to get a little bit more stout, in that bottom six, and I think that's definitely going to be the focus, of trying to, again, make the line feel a little bit more punishing, in the sense of.
So where do you fill in, Ed? Because you look at it right now, Point, Kucherov, Gensel,
right?
Bjorkstrand with Cirelli and Hagel.
Yep.
Third line, you would think Nick Paul, Geeky, and Gonsalves. And then your fourth line is Yanni Gord, Gergensons. And so there's only really one spot. That's another reason why, when people said like they're worried about the depth, I don't think the reason why they lost to Florida was because of depth, because you had Dylan Duke, you had Jack Finley, you had some of these guys waiting in your wing. Bjorkstrand got hurt. That was the one guy. I don't know if it was necessarily a depth thing, because even if Bjorkstrand was healthy, I don't necessarily know if the Lightning were going to win that series anyway. So I don't know if it was necessarily a depth thing. And that's why I wonder if a move could be made. And then, we have Isaac Howard out there. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think that he could be moved here in the next couple of days as we get closer and closer to the NHL draft?
I think so. I think that if you're, obviously time has gone since we talked to Julian last at the end of seasons, but if you still think at this point in time that this is a guy who's not going to play for you, then you've got to move him while his stock is high. And his stock is at his highest right now, coming off the Hobie Baker Award, coming off of, right now with the draft where maybe you can get, right now the bar is a second round pick, right? That's the
low, floor,
right? Because that's what you'd get, if you wait him out, right? So moving forward with that, if you can find a team that he would go to, and you can get something obviously higher than that, you've got to consider it. I would like to get a first round pick in a NHL piece. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of what you'd be looking at to move him at, knowing what that floor is. Also knowing that this guy probably, if you find the right team, that he can help them right away. You know what I mean?
Right away. Yeah, he's not going to want to stay. He's not going to want to go to the minors.
He'll go and fit into a team right away. And that's what's captivating for a potential trade partner. Now, what we don't know is the inner workings of how they work this out with the guy who wants to choose his own team, and the narrow net of potential trade partners that it creates. So because I don't think we know any of that, but we do know that he wants to play at the NHL. I think that's pretty, even though it has
next year. And that's why I said he was involved in the deal that I said, because I feel like if you're going to make a big splash, you add him into the deal.
Right.
Because if you add him into the deal, now it's like, I made the analogy yesterday. Somebody tells you something's a great movie. Somebody else says, it's not a great movie. And then the guy walks into the barbershop and he says, I got DVDs, and you're not going to buy it if it's just the one DVD, but if it's 3 DVDs for 10, that'll be one of the 3 DVDs. Like, yeah, we're willing to take the chance. I think there could be teams out there that may be a little like cautious to trade for a guy like Isaac Howard. But if you trade for him and another guy or two, and he's part of the piece, I think his value as a trade entity could go up when you're talking about for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So if they do end up making a move, I think partnering him up with somebody else could help them. But as to your point, it probably will be in a situation where you trade him for, kind of like the Gutter Coche deal, right? Maybe a change of scenery for another young guy, like with Trevor Zegras, right? Like that's another guy people are looking at. I don't know if he'd be a good fit with the Tampa Bay Lightning, but that's the type of guy, young guy, still got the whole world in front of him. It's kind of crazy because Zegras was so popular at the All-Star game in Vegas years ago. And if I would have told you he's not going to be on Team USA for the 4 Nations, you'd be like, what the hell? I mean, his career has gone in a downward spiral, but he's got all the talent in the world. So if we had to place a bet on it, do you think he gets traded this weekend, Isaac Howard?
I would put.
What are the chances?
I would say 65 to 70%.
Oh, wow. Okay. Over 50.
Yeah, I would say so. Like I said, like I think the net of teams that we're talking about here, just the fact that he wants to choose his own team is what kind of makes it, but there's no doubt this is where his value, this is the time when his value is.
Right.
Teams are looking to make moves right before the draft. The Lightning don't have a first round pick. That'd be great to get into the draft that way, even if, and like you said, like, I just think, and then like you said, I don't know whether anything's cooled down with the discussions with him, or whether I even had discussions with him or anything like that. Like, there was a part of me that thought, just let this kind of play out, and maybe we'll see him, but I don't think he ever wears a Lightning uniform at this point, because just the way that, it was your question, right? I mean, basically, how
best question I ever asked.
how strongly Julian was about it. Like we never hear, like, well, first off, we never hear from Julian that, and second, he never general manager that.
Exactly. And the way that he said it, and maybe it was just because he said it to me, but it was just one of those things where like it almost seemed like he wanted to just end the speculation, and he just trusted it, and it was almost like he just said it to me, like, nah, it's not happening, Jay. Like, let's just move on. Like, he doesn't want to be here. Let's move on. That it was just such like a, all right, you know what I mean? Like, there was no like, well, maybe this or maybe this. There was none of that. It was just like, it's not working. He doesn't want to come here. We're going to do this. Here's the compensation if we don't trade him. And it was just like, okay. Like, we don't get that a lot in sports, especially in sports media. There's always a, well, and hell, he's the guy that opened the door in the fireside chat by talking about the possibility of coming up. And we all walked out going, well, maybe we will see Isaac Howard this year. And then for him to so emphatically close that door, I mean, this, which you got to love about Julian Reesbaugh, but it's also very revealing about how the situation has gone down.
Yeah, there was no, and it's very rare that he doesn't leave a door open, like
right.
And even during the whole Stamkos thing, there was that door that constantly seemed to be open, and he never left that open when he answered that question. So yeah, that's what makes me think that there's not much positivity to thinking that he's gonna, change his mind or anything like that. And right now, like I said, I think the Lightning are looking at that and seeing, they're surveying teams and seeing what's out there for him, because, and like you said, maybe he is the ultimate sweetener. I mean, it's hard to say that as a first round pick who just won the Hobie Baker Award, but maybe he is a guy who you throw in there, and because he doesn't have to approve the trade by any means, right?
No.
So you just send him in there. You hope that there's the hope that a team believes that they can sign him and keep him, but obviously that's not a regular sweetener. It's not like some third pairing D man who.
This isn't stevia. This isn't stevia or some knockoff additive sugar that you put in your coffee. It's just unbelievable. All right, before I let you go. Yeah, no, we're not hating on stevia here, especially if they want to sponsor the podcast, like our friends Honest Hammer Custom Builders LLC. All right, before I let you go, let's go through the card this weekend. You give me who you think is going to win, or what's going to happen. Sami Zayn and Karrion Kross.
I love this.
Finally coming to a head.
Love this.
Love. I know you do, but unfortunately, Karrion Kross, as much as he is, I think people forget, outside of his title run in NXT. I mean, my guy is not the greatest in-ring performer. I love what he's done on the mic. I think his wife is maybe one of the most beautiful women to walk the planet. I like their gimmick, but there's just times where he's a bigger dude and he looks like he struggles carrying people, right? Cesaro's like, a toned up guy, and Cesaro can pick anybody up over his head, Claudio Castagnoli. But that's a big thing with me. If you're a big guy and you can't lift people, and I'm just like, dude, you're big for nothing. I think this is he needs to have a good showing here in ring to match all the noise that he's made outside the ring. What say you?
No, yeah, I agree. I think that he's got to make a big statement in the ring. I love the promos that he does. I think that's exciting, and it makes you want to see more of him in the ring. So yeah, I think for him, it's important. This is an important card for a lot of wrestlers, I think. It's a really big one, but
he's got to win, right?
Yeah,
he's got to win this match.
He's got to win.
Rhea Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez.
This is another big one, because I mean the women's division is, take a big hit with Liv getting hurt. So and Raquel's another one of those like super strong athletes that really hasn't met her peak in the ring. So I think
she was fantastic in NXT. Like their battles in NXT, and Raquel was built as a badass. And listen, she's a 3-time women's tag team champ. Like I think she's decent on the mic. She's got some skill. But it's just weird how she's kind of flatlined with the big crew.
I think Rhea wins this one, but I think this is kind of a maybe wrestling Rhea can kind of get her, I don't want to say over, but help her standing, because I think Raquel needs that right now.
I think Raquel wins this one too. I think Roxanne Perez comes in, helps her. I think it strengthens their bond even more. Rhea Ripley losing doesn't do anything for her. I mean, she's just still the belle of the ball, I think, to a lot of people. I think Raquel probably wins. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe you see a lot because you look at the next match, Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa. I think this is pretty easy. Jacob Fatu's going over in this one. So, maybe you have two of the kind of the heels going over in the first two before the babyface goes over in this third one.
Yeah, that could be possibly. I mean, the thing is that with Solo, Solo's going to get help somewhere, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, then the question is, where is that coming from? Is that, does Jimmy show? Does I know there's been the whole thing of like now that the Jay doesn't have doesn't have the title, like, are the Usos getting back together? So I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I'll tell you something. But at Fanatics Fest, Jacob Fatu had one of the longest lines.
Oh, I bet.
And he there's no doubt that he is getting over, so yeah.
Asuka and Jade Cargill in the finals of the women's Queen of the Ring. Who do you think comes out on top of that one? Because I think that's a tougher one to call.
It's a tougher one to call. I think both of the, obviously they're two women who are coming off, injuries and trying to get back. Asuka's been there. Jade, I just think.
I feel like this match could be rough.
Right.
I feel like this match could be rough.
Be real rough, I think.
No, but I mean rough in that sense, but also rough of like Jade's got to be able to go because Asuka can go with anybody. And this is a true test for Jade Cargill. I think the last match against Roxanne Perez was a test, but I think this one even more because Asuka's a future Hall of Famer. She's one of the best in the world easily. Right. Jade's got to be able to keep up here because if not, I think she'll get exposed on a grand stage. Yeah, and
we've all been waiting for her and Bianca, right? So moving backwards, is this something that moves that forward, or because the winner gets a SummerSlam title, right? Title. So whether that becomes Bianca at some point before SummerSlam, or maybe that, I don't know. I think Jade wins, like I said. But again, this is one of those big matches for a wrestler that they have the opportunity that's in the women's division. It's kind of becoming more wide open to really kind of make a statement. And we know what Jade's built up to be, in that women's division. So I think she wins. But it's going to be
all right. Oh yeah, King of the Ring final. We got Cody against Randy Orton. Legacy battle between those two guys. Randy, does he take the loss again? A controversial loss last year to Gunther. It just seems like this is one of those things where you're maybe planting the seed of a future feud with these guys after this. Does Cody win this and then Randy costs him at SummerSlam? I just feel like it'd be very strange, I think, if Cody doesn't win this match.
When has Randy won a big PLE?
It's been a while, man.
Match in a while, and he's had some bangers, but
yeah.
I think, maybe it sets up some kind of thing later on, but it
has to, right? It has to.
Yeah, and so I think I go with Orton on this one because I just think it's time for him to win one of these.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
I like that. About time, right? Gotta get going.
He's got to.
And then finally, John Cena and CM Punk going at it. This is just incredible to be able to figure out that these guys are wrestling in a WWE ring in 2025. Is Punk the guy that takes the title off Cena?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I think this run continues. It's just been. I think and to be honest, until I heard the pipe bomb monologue,
pipe bomb? Yeah,
until I heard that, I was like, they can't go. They can't go away from this. There's so much more to develop with Cena as champ, and I just think, but I think it's gonna be a classic. I think it's going to be one that they talk about for a while because again, it's one that was no one could have expected 4 or 5 years ago, and now you get it. So, but again, Punk's another one that we're waiting for his big kind of PLE moment. I think
because he hasn't won one. He hasn't won a title since he's been back.
Right. So we're still waiting for that. But Punk is one of those guys that he's not going to lose any steam over losing.
No. He doesn't necessarily need it, but I think we could say that because of how popular he is because he's an all-timer, but I think at times you do need it. I think at times it's like, all right, well, you came back for what, right? Cody wasn't the champ for a while. Eventually, that whole story finished the story. Same thing I think happens with Punk. All right, what do we got up on Tampa Bay Times right now, my friends?
Well, we got a little story on a little story, pretty big story.
I wouldn't say that to your face. Little story
on what's ahead with the draft. Some of the stuff that we already talked about. We're looking at with Isaac Howard. The Lightning don't have a first round pick right now. Seven picks, 4 of them in the 7th round, which goes to show how much these guys have faith in their scouting and developing. And the fact that they like the fact that they can kind of stock up on these diamonds in the rough, so to speak. Last year there was one guy who they picked in their last pick, Harrison Menigan, who kind of a little known goalie. It got passed off in the draft before. Really wasn't even a starter in his first year of juniors, and all of a sudden they draft him. He gets traded to another team, and it ends up being the WHL playoff MVP for Medicine Hat. So and gets an entry level deal last month. So that's a 7th round pick that they gave an entry level deal to a year after drafting him. So that's obviously he's a little bit older guy, but just kind of goes to show that there's still some guys out there. Obviously they made a big name for themselves with Andre Palat, drafting him in the 7th round years ago. Obviously guys like Nick Perbix, Cole Kepke were 6th round picks. They're still lottery tickets, but at the end of the day, the Lightning love their chances when they get a bunch of those guys. I was talking to John Rosso, the scouting director, and he was like, since we have that many picks late, it's going to go fast. It's 4 picks in the 7th round. It's like 15 minutes basically. And joking around with his staff, he was kind of like, if we have a good 15, 20 minutes, we're going to have a good draft. All this preparation kind of comes down to a very small amount of time. So that's kind of interesting. So that's kind of going into the draft. And obviously we'll have a preview on free agency as we go ahead, as July 1st happens, not knowing what might happen before then, is what happened last year with the big moves that they made at the draft and before free agency. So and then obviously July 1st is one of those days that you really don't step away from your computer or your phone, because everything does happen so quickly on July 1st once noon hits. So we'll see what the Lightning have. And the one thing about hockey free agency is that it happens really fast. The end of 2 days in, you pretty much kind of know what your roster looks like and what you're really going to do. So going to be a busy week ahead, and kind of it all hits really big on Tuesday on July 1st.
Follow him on Twitter /X, Eddie in the yard, Eddie on the ice. That's what I like to call him. Ed Encina is doing a great job. Again, you want to talk about supporting local. The only way you do that is by supporting, well, not the only way, but one of the best ways to do it is support our friends over at the Tampa Bay Times, tampabay.com. We've had Stroud, we've had Topkin, we've had Ed, we've had Joey Knight, we've had Colleen Wright. We're big supporters of the Tampa Bay Times right here on the Jay Recher podcast. Please do whatever you can. You may not think it's a big deal. We talk about this with our super chats. You may not think one subscription is a big deal, but it is. It really is, because that is what is going to keep our local paper alive and buzzing. Even if it's not for you, get it for somebody else. Like, you just never know, and especially with our sports crew, all the people that we have here that cover sports, top-notch people, and they're all over it. And when news breaks, there's nobody else that I'd rather talk to than our friends at the Tampa Bay Times. Ed, you're the man. Give my love to your better half. Tell her I'm very disappointed. I think this is the first time we've talked in a while where she didn't text or she didn't message in. I don't know what she's doing, but tell her to get her act together.
Shows she's busy at work, I think.
I appreciate you, brother. Talk soon.
Appreciate it as always, buddy.
You got it, pal. Ed Encina, my guy. Again, go check him out. TampaBayTimes.com, TampaBay.com, excuse me. All right, so last thing I want to talk about before we wrap things up is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Some of the news there is, which is pretty cool. Creamsicle Day. We found out when they're going to wear the Creamsicle jerseys. That's going to be December 11th against the Falcons. That's a throwback Creamsicle game. And the team announced, and this is according to Greg Allman, there'll be a Creamsicle t-shirt giveaway to fans in attendance. So basically an orange out for that key Thursday night divisional game. How awesome is that? So Thursday night, Raymond James Stadium. Hopefully you will be there. Again, December 11th. Their home schedule, playing 10 games this year at home. August 9th, well, obviously that's the preseason stuff. Titans, Bills, Jets, Eagles, Niners, Pats, Cards, Saints, Falcons, and Panthers on January 4th. But also some of the news that we heard, and we just got some of the news today, that it looks like for training camp, the Buccaneers have made tickets available to the general public for 3 open training camp practices. That's July 24th, July 25th, and August 1st, general admission tickets costing $10.75 plus fees. That kind of threw me off a little bit. I was like, wait a second. Like, they're charging for training camp? Yes. And there are 11 teams, and this is last year, so we don't know if that number is going to go up. But in 2024, 11 teams charged for training camp. 11. And the Buccaneers being one of them. Do you care? Does that matter to you as a Buccaneer fan? $10.75 plus fees. So whatever the fees are, even if they're $5, $15, $20. I think some people look at it and say, it's no big deal. We're going to see our team. $20 ain't going to hurt me. But then other people look at it and go, yeah, well, there's almost 20 other teams that don't charge for training camp. And what are you really seeing out there, right? What do you think, Bucs Nation? Is that a big deal or not? Do you think that it's a big deal that they charge for these training camp practices? Do you not think it's a big deal? I don't know. I'm kind of caught in the middle here. I always think with the NFL being a cash cow and how much money that they make, and everybody always says NFL is king, NFL is king, NFL is king. Yeah, that's great. But then you get in situations like this and then you charge $20. Like, how much money are you really going to make on training camp for people that are coming in? Because listen, a lot of these people are season ticket holders. A lot of these people, they take off from work that day and charge them like $20. Is that really making a dent for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? I don't think so. I wouldn't think so, right? I think it's affecting more of the patrons. I think it's more affecting the guys in the crew. Like, $20 adds up to the ham and eggers like you and me going to watch these games. But I mean, how many people? A couple of hundred times that by 20. Is that really making a dent in the checkbook of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? I don't know. I think at times when you can charge and not charge something, like especially the NFL, if you're a business that is struggling, if you're a business that is really trying to get into a situation where you need to make the money to survive, kind of like what I'm talking about for the super chats are on this show. I'm not making millions of dollars for the Recher podcast right now. If I ever got to a point where I had a bunch of sponsors and I'm making thousands of dollars, maybe I'm not sitting here saying, hey, $1, $2, $5, $10 every bit helps. But we're talking about an NFL team. You're making millions of dollars. Again, this does not depreciate. And is this a Glazers decision? Because you ask Manchester United fans out there, they're like, of course they would charge for training. Of course they would charge for training camp. But again, being one of 11 teams to do it, like, I don't know. I think I'd much rather be in the situation where I wasn't charging, come out, have a good time. There's only 3 of those practices anyway. So what's the big deal? If you need to do it because you have to pay people, I guess that could be one thing, but I don't know. I always err on the side of like, you're an NFL team. You should probably not charge for something like this. All right. So that is going to wrap it up for me today on the program. I got to head over to Ian's place because we got to get ready for the Beckles and Recher podcast at 3:00 today. Plenty to get into there with him, including Kettle Marte, including Connor McDavid. We'll talk about that as well. Let me see. Excuse me. I want to see what else I wrote, just so you guys knew the impact of TEU, Tight End University. And then should sports radio be more interested in beef and talking shit, stuff like that? Touched on a little bit today. We'll touch on that with Ian. I want to hear what he has to say. Ren, I remember when Dan Schneider charged for training camp. That meant other teams could buy a ticket and scout the practice. I guess to change the rule. Yeah, you got that right, my friend. A big thank you to everybody that joined us on the program today, including Xavier Scruggs, Ed, Encina, and you. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe. Let everybody know to follow us here on the Recher podcast. And we got to show love to our friends, Honest Hammer Custom Builders, LLC, 813-244-0956. Scan the QR code. Listen, if you hear somebody talking about home renovations, you hear somebody talking about remodel, they don't know who to go to, call up my guy Hammer. Russ will take care of you. 813-244-0956. Even if you just have questions, give him a buzz and he'll be able to help you out. Tomorrow on the program, 12:30, Chris Adams-Wall, Ray's pre- and post-game host, going to join us on the program. Adam Slevan, the Sly, going to join us at 1 o'clock from Pewter Report to talk all things Bucks. And then at 1:30, Lyndon Blake from Outkick joining us. She was at TEU. She was checking out Taylor Swift. She's going to join us on the program as well. More irons in the fire over the next couple of days. Again, make sure you follow me at Recher and stick around at 3 o'clock or come back at 3 o'clock in the Beckles and Recher podcast live from the Dignitary Cafe, 4817 South West Shore Boulevard. Go check them out. Kava, Kratom, just a really chill atmosphere. Again, go check out the Dignitary Cafe, 4817 Southwest Shore Boulevard. I love you all. Thank you so much for all the love and the support and the super chats. Every little bit helps. I can't thank you guys enough. That's going to do it for me here. We'll see you tomorrow at noon right here on the Jay Recher podcast. I am gone. Peace out.